Hey there, how y'all doing this fine misty morning? Data here from just a half a mile or so north of Front Royal, where I spent the night last night at Mountain Home, which is not just a wonderful bed and breakfast and hiker hostel with great hosts, but with hosts who are very, very knowledgeable, part because Scott and Lisa have been doing this for a decade or so, but also because Scott's a class of 2012, I believe, SOBO Thru-Hiker. So I got a lot of really good advice on what to do on the next segment of the trail. It is about 10:40 on Saturday the 15th, and this is my first stream crossing, which was just, I thought, nice background for me chattering here. I didn't do an end of the day or beginning of the day video because at the hostel / B&B there were several other guests. I shot a little bit of video, but also my basic plan for today, which took a while to work out yesterday, is to hike 4 miles to the Denton shelter and then 0 at the shelter, because today the weather looks very overcast, as you can see, but it's actually not supposed to rain until about 3 or 4 o'clock. So I have 4 miles to go. I should be there by 2 or so to hunker down. I packed an extra day's food rations. My intent is to 0 at the Denton shelter and then to hike 3 10-mile stretches up into Bear's Den, which should be pretty doable, assuming the storm passes on time, doesn't come early like it's kind of threatening to this morning. But I'm feeling good. I resupplied. I think I showed some of that on the previous video. And I rested up and slept in today. Had a nice big breakfast, which was really homemade and wonderful from Mountain Home. And I think that the advice from Scott and Lisa about the trail was just invaluable. So I would highly recommend folks thinking about choosing Mountain Home as a stop, whether you do the hiker hostel, which is a $30 or $40 or something like that, and or you do a private room like I did, which is a bit more than that. So this is data from the woods, getting ready to hike 4 miles up to the Denton shelter, and I'll probably not update a lot today until I get to the shelter because I want to make sure I beat that rain. So good morning. Hope the morning is treating you all well. So it's now 11:30. I've been climbing uphill for an hour, and it is interesting for me as a hiker to figure out that rain, or the threat of rain, is an incredible motivator. I've done in an hour almost 2 miles straight up this hill. Usually my hill climbing pace is more like half that, but it's not raining yet, but you can see how misty it is, spooky almost. And this is level. This is where I came from. And I'm about just a few minutes from the summit. And the rest of my day is basically 3 miles or 2.5 miles downhill. So that's a really good start for me for the day. I was surprised at that. I would say for folks coming along behind me that the climb up out of Fort Royal is, it's not hard, but it's steady. And it's not rocky or rooty too much, but there's a lot of dirt and trail litter, so that's good traction unless it's wet. So today it's only a little bit moist because of the clouds and the mist overnight and the fog. But I would not have wanted to climb this tomorrow in the rain because it could have gotten very muddy, probably will be very muddy and very slick. So I'm taking a brief standing break. Since I'm only out for 5 hours today or so, I'm not going to take a pack off, shoes off break. This is where I'm headed. Again, that's level and that's up. So I have a little ways up to go still. But then I'll summit and head down into the, I think it's Jim and Mary Denton shelter, where I will hunker down for a day for the evening and maybe all of tomorrow in a 0 because a storm is coming in. And that threat of that storm and all this fog and creepiness is proven to be quite a motivator for my pace of hiking. So I'm going to sign off for now and hydrate a little bit and get back to it. It is 12:45 and I have made the Jim and Molly Denton, Jim and Mary Denton shelter, which looks like a hotel in the middle of nowhere. I'm filming from here because I got another person staying here who's got a fire going already for us. Might be the caretaker, I don't know, but I'm here early enough that I think I might continue on to the Manassas Gap shelter because it's 5 miles away and the weather's actually, as you can probably see, it's gotten a little bit nicer. But I'm going to go up here and see what all's going on at the shelter. Okay, I am at the Denton shelter and I am taking a little pack off, boots off break. Made it here by 1. I think that I am going to go ahead and hike on to Manassas. It's only about 1. Manassas Gap shelter is about 5.5 away. There's a couple of gentlemen here for a couple of days on a weekend hike. Folks who are more familiar with the trail than I am. We kind of settled in, and since I'm going to be in the shelter anyway, I think I'll go on to Manassas because I still got as many hours to hike, and the weather's gotten much, much nicer, as you might be able to see off in the distance there. But this is a very nice shelter. I'm sitting on like a triple wide Adirondack chair on a patio. There's a separate building. The fellas got a fireplace going out here. Got a fire going over here where they're cooking some stuff. And then, as if that weren't enough, there's like horseshoe pitching thing along with the bear pole, and there's a spring a little ways away, and it's overall it's a pretty dang nice shelter. So I'm gonna take a little boots off break and get back to it. So I got about 4.5 miles left to go to get to Manassas Gap, and came out of this nice little stream. I hadn't mentioned that after I cleared that climb coming up out of Front Royal, that was a really serious climb, by the way. But and it was long, maybe an hour and a half, something like that. Once I cleared it, though, all the way down for another like 3 or 4 miles to the Denton shelter was very cruisy, kind of state park, wide open path. No big rock scrambles to speak of. No difficult terrain. And I made really good time. Then I got to the shelter, as I showed you pictures of, and there were, I gotta figure out which rock to step on here. I think I'm gonna step on that one right there. Right there. Okay, that worked. There were 2 young men setting up a campfire, and then as I headed out, 2 young ladies came up the trail who looked like they might be their friends. So I think the young men weren't real sociable because they had kind of a couples night planned up at the shelter, which seemed, kind of wonderfully romantic for some young couples to get out on the AT and have a night to themselves in the wilderness. So I'm glad I had already made the decision to move on, thanks to Scott's encouragement this morning that I should consider it. And as you can see, the weather's gotten a lot nicer. So, it's a pretty good afternoon for hiking now. I did go ahead and don the rain gear, my raincoat, because it's gotten a little bit cooler. And I should make it into the Manassas Gap shelter between 4 and 5. And the rain is scheduled to get here between 4 and 5. So the one thing I don't want to do is to be caught out in the rain without my rain gear on, like I was when Helene rolled in. Because putting rain gear on once it's already pouring down rain is not fun. And it's also a little pointless because at that point, at least in my case during Helene, I was already soaked to the skin. So, another 4.5 miles or so, hopefully, I'll be at the Manassas Gap shelter, where I will hunker down for the night and probably zero there tomorrow as the storm passes. So, thanks to Scott for encouraging me to keep an open mind about my eventual destination. And I'll sit there tonight and figure out how that changes my plan for getting into Bear's Den and resupplying in a couple of days. But in the meantime, this is Data back on trail. Hope you all are having as good a day as I am. This is kind of a different part of the Appalachian Trail than what I've hiked any of before. It's about halfway between the Denton Shelter and the Manassas Gap Shelter. It kind of opens up into a little Virginia grassland, kind of like some folks might have seen on my videos of my training hikes in Kane County and other places in the Midwest around Chicago. It's a big open grassland. Looks to me like they may have, restored it with native plants, although it's hard to tell. There's no indicator of that. But you can kind of see off in the distance the trail that I'm headed down and then back up. And not sure it gets any more cruisier of a trail to hike on than hiking through a meadow like this. I'm probably about 3.5 or 4 miles out from Manassas still. It's been a pretty good hike this afternoon. I did have to shed the rain gear, because as soon as I started up the last climb, I just started sweating like bullets. And I shed that. Now I'm plenty warm. And I have a little bit of a downhill stretch now for a mile or so. A parking lot and a water source. And then I have one more climb toward the end of the day that will take me all the way up to the Manassas Gap Shelter for the evening. And it looks like I'm still, on schedule to be there, by 4 or 5, and hopefully I'll beat the rain. Weather hasn't gotten any better, but it hasn't gotten any worse either, so I guess I'm going to keep on hiking. So in this section also, the trailblazers are on wooden posts that even have little metal caps on them. Look like they used to be fence posts, maybe, I don't know, but if anybody watching this can explain why they're different here than they are in other parts of the trail, it's just an interesting bit of history. But this is the, 8th or 9th one that I passed, so I don't know if it used to be an old fence row or if this is just something unique the trail club in this area does. So, love to know more about that. So among the many firsts for me on this Appalachian Trail Flipflop NOBO thru-hike journey, this is my first railroad track crossing. So, in case I get run down, I thought I'd capture it. No, I won't get run down. I know how to cross railroad tracks. Like everything else, you look all the way to one direction, and then you look all the way to the other direction, and you look what the path is like coming across railroad tracks, and then you don't dilly-dally. And it's just that easy. Just like when I was a kid walking to school across the railroad tracks. I got about 2.5 miles left to go. It's about 3 o'clock. So I'll probably be there by 4:30 or 5. We'll see. I've been making pretty good time today. The path has been rocky and challenging at points, but I don't know if I'm getting trail legs or not, but certainly I think the trail is a little smoother, and I'm gaining confidence in my ability to place my foot in the right place and move at a pace when I recognize that the trail is a little bit smoother. As you can tell, I've already finally, after 2 weeks, grown enough confidence so I can film while walking, which is quite a step for me. That first week I wasn't about to film while moving. There are a lot of boardwalks here in the northern sections of Virginia. Most of them are in pretty good to very good shape, and they're really helpful because their AT takes a route across a bunch of marshy lowlands. Oh, there's a train. How about that? Looks like I got that timing just about right, didn't I? About that. I'd say that this part of the AT journey is about complete then. I had a boardwalk, a train crossing, and I got to see a train. So the further I get into northern Virginia, the more the terrain varies. This is a trailhead just on the other side of an interstate, which was just beyond the train tracks I just shot at. And that's a full-on, I don't know which interstate that is, but it's noisy. So I'm taking a little pack-off break just to filter a little additional water for the last 2.5 mile climb. And partly because I came up on this bridge, which I'm about to walk up and over after I get some water. And it's got a really busy stream on it. So it was really easy to scoop a couple of liters real quick. I've done here like a homemade for hikers kind of place to stand and grab yourself some water and take it back to the picnic table and filter it. And I'll go across that bridge, and then I start about a 2.5 mile climb up to the Manassas Gap shelter, which. So I'm about a mile out from the shelter. I got about a 500-foot climb left, and then 40 feet down. It's 4:15. I should be there by 5. And for the first time today, just now, the sun came out. Now, as soon as it did, and before I could get the camera out, it went away. But since I was concerned about getting to the shelter before this storm is coming in, which you can kind of see off in the distance down there to the south, I'm really glad I decided to go for it, as Scott suggested from Mountain Home. Thank you very much, Scott. It encouraged me to think about that when I got down to the Denton shelter. And now I'm within an hour of Manassas Gap, which I hear is a brand new shelter, where I may zero tomorrow. But just as I do get near here, the sun comes out. It's a glorious day. I've been hiking through what is, I think, a hardwood forest all day today. So the leaves you see that are still hanging on to some of the smaller trees are actually, I think, beech trees in the midst of a bunch of oaks. And the forest has looked like this just all day. Just littered with leaves on the ground, big, tall, majestic, mature hardwoods, and beech trees scattered in amongst them, with last year's leaves still hanging on. Even in some cases, the buds of this year's leaves starting to show up. It's been a great day to be hiking, despite the difficult conditions right at the beginning. So I guess I misunderstood when I thought a fellow hiker told me that there was a new shelter in Manassas Gap. This is clearly the original older shelter, which I think is one of the older shelters on the Appalachian Trail. It's got that Adirondack style wood log kind of thing. It's authentically a Appalachian Trail looking. There is a new privy. At least the scoutmaster down at the trailhead told me there was a set of Boy Scouts doing a shakedown hike for some upcoming trip they have. And they're all camping out in tents up at the Blue Blaze connection to the AT in this. But there's a nice big fire pit, and shelter is 3-sided, and it's got some cubby holes I can tuck into, because I'm definitely going to be waiting out the rain here. And let me check my compass, see which direction this is. It faces, let's see, that is almost due south. So the storm that's going to roll in should roll in right out my front door. Isn't that fun? I think this way, you can see the sign right there, I assume, is the spring on the little wooden sign there. And then there's a bear pole right over there. You might even see the Boy Scouts tents just beyond that up the hill. And then I think that the privy is down this direction. So I'm going to get settled in. Since it's going to storm all day tomorrow, I really liked it. It's one of these, it's a 3-sided log shelter, but the sides come well across the middle, so I should be able to hide away from the rain quite a bit. And gonna have an authentic Appalachian Trail zeroing day in the woods experience, I think, over the next couple days. So here goes.